Understanding the mind. So, what motivates your goals? Motivation is the force that initiates, guides, and maintains goal orientated behaviors. Understanding what emotion is driving your client's goal is extremely useful in helping the client set intrinsic goals rather than extrinsic goals, meaning that the goal is motivated by a feeling state that is fulfilling, satisfying, and long term, rather than a short hit of euphoria such as buying a new car. Your client's motivation is what causes them to take action. The force that lies beneath motivation can be biological, social, emotional, or cognitive in nature. Based on your client's early life experiences, your client will attach meaning to attaining a certain goal. And it's your job as a coach to find out the why behind your client's goal. So, understanding your emotions. From the moment we're born, our emotions are engaged and our body and brain set learning defense reactions via the subconscious mind, which are imprinted and stored deep in the mind's recesses. These negative emotions become embedded and stored. We literally are programmed until that program is replaced and released and replaced by another, more positive program. By the time we're an adult, we've had so many unresolved experiences that many of our responses become automatically negative, which result in a behavior that only serves to reinforce that negative belief. We're caught in a negative emotional event cycle, often based on long forgotten past memories. Emotional triggers. One does not have to be a combat soldier or visit a refugee camp in Syria or the Congo to encounter trauma. Trauma happens to us, our friends, our families, and our neighbours in the form of physical, verbal, or emotional abuse, or tragic events and losses, discrimination, betrayal and violence, even alcohol and unemotionally available parents. As a human being, we are extremely resilient species. We bounce back from wars, famine, natural disasters, and the chaos of our own immediate environment. But traumatic experiences do leave traces which are passed down through generations, as much as 14 generations due to recent discoveries in genetic testing in rats. They leave traces on our minds and our emotions and affect our capacity for joy and intimacy, and even our biology and our immune system. So, why does this happen? Taken from the book The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk, traumatized people become stuck, stooped in their growth because they can't integrate new experiences into their lives. Being traumatized means continuing to organize your life as if the trauma was still going on, unchanged and immutable, as every new encounter is contaminated by the past. After trauma, the world is experienced with a different nervous system. The most important job of the brain is to keep us alive no matter what. The job of the brain. Our brains need to register and signal to the body what it needs when it needs it, such as food, shelter, rest, protection, and procreation. It creates an internal navigation system that directs us to where we can get these needs met. The brain generates the required amount of energy production to see that these needs get met. And the brain alerts us to dangers and opportunities along the way. It refines our actions and behaviors in accordance to our environment, moment by moment. And since we humans do better in groups, we seek out like-minded souls and adapt to our environment in order to either thrive or survive. So what happens when our internal navigation system has a short circuit and we end up going in the wrong direction, doing the wrong thing, or not getting our needs met in a healthy way? Or when our relationships break down as a result of our faulty thinking? Nobody can treat a horrendous event which has happened, and what has happened cannot be undone. But what can be dealt with are the imprints of the trauma on the body, mind, and soul. This is where the soul awakening method helps, as we work systemically through the seven chakras or spiritual energy centers of the body, as these centers correlate to specific periods in your life from birth to now. Each chakra opens and unfolds and responds to its environment given the circumstances it's faced with. Emotional frequency. We all have a level of emotional intelligence. It's how we manage our emotions, but this will vary greatly from person to person, depending on our development, especially the development of the root and the sacral chakra. In these chakras, we work with the client's early imprinting around security and inner strength, the inner child, emotions, healthy relationships, and healthy boundaries. Managing our emotions in a healthy way is vital to our spiritual growth. Understanding your client's emotional needs will help you help them set healthy, specific, and measurable goals rather than them aim for a hedonistic goal such as a sports car or a bigger house, when really the underlying emotion behind them wanting the goal is for them to feel worthy, loved, safe, and secure. How we create our reality with something called NLP, which stands for Neuro Linguistic Programming. It may be hard to understand that what you experience is not reality. It's only your version of reality that's been viewed through your personal filter system. By the time you become aware of experiencing something, it's already been filtered, deleted, distorted, and generalized to fit the belief system of your brain. Then this version becomes your reality, and it becomes something called your map of the world. Every person you encounter will have a different version or experience of reality based on their own map of the world and their belief system. It's a known fact that after a police incident, you're asked to not discuss the event with another person until all statements have been taken. This is because every person will have a different viewpoint of the same event. They will notice things that you've missed and vice versa. You may know someone who believes everyone should or does see the world in the same way that they do. But this only leads to frustration, disillusion, disappointment, and confrontation with others. We tend to think other people are just like us, but now we know this is not the case. Based on each of us holding a different map or model or viewpoint of the world, it follows that each of us must have our own version of reality. This would explain why there's so much variation in the way people act and think. Remember, you are in charge of your own mind, and therefore you create your own results based on your actions. Since everyone's map is only a version of their reality, the question is, how useful is their map? A map is useful when it helps you to find your way to where you want to go, and the map that you had or formed as a child may hold a negative or outdated belief system. It's important to understand this when working with a client, but don't expect them to change straight away. Find a bridge from their current map to the new map that will be most useful for them and lead them gently across it to their desired goal. The great hypnotherapist Milton Erickson used to say, "There are no resistant clients, only insufficient flexible therapists." Remember, the actions of others make no sense to you, but they do to them. Always be curious to understand their map of the world and why it has been formed that way. Here you discover so much about human behavior. When coaching, communicate with compassion and non-judgment at all times, having respect for the other person's map and model of the world. So how do we create our map or model of the world? Well, our senses are being bombarded with so much information at any given time. To make sense of the world and our environment, the conscious and unconscious parts of the brain organize our reality by deleting and filtering what we don't want or don't need to pay attention to. Our brains do this for us unconsciously based on our past experiences, our values, and our belief system. But this can either help or hinder our lives. As our filtered information is presented to us in such a way, we keep repeating the experiences until as it keeps us in a certain state of reality. This means we're not seeing the big picture, only our personal map of the world based on our early experiences, belief system, and value. The change comes when we're prepared to look at our beliefs and reframe our negative experiences. So we have 5 senses that we use to filter information. And we're taught to experience the world through these 5 senses, which is our visual sense of sight, our auditory sense of hearing, our kinesthetic sense of touch, our olfactory sense of smell, and our gustatory sense of taste. And our internal filters will delete in every situation, as there is so much more going on than we realize, but our conscious awareness takes in only a limited amount. We pay attention to what we're interested in and we delete the rest. Your internal filter will distort. To make sense of the world, we attach meanings to things. We look for connections and patterns that link to what we believe to be true. And your internal filters will generalize. We look for commonality and predictions and assume things to be the way that we understand it. What we expect to happen is influenced by our perceptions of previous experiences and events. This means that your perception of reality is based on the beliefs that you hold both consciously and unconsciously. You interpret the information you receive through your 5 senses based on your past experiences, your belief system, your values, your attitudes, and your experiences. So how do we break down our emotional barriers and take a fresh perspective? We all have limiting beliefs and emotional blockers that get in the way of our success and achievements. We become what we think we should become, and often we do things to gratify parents or peers rather than for our own deepest desire. Our beliefs, both positive and negative, are formed from a very young age, and as a result, we grow mentally and are shaped by the views and opinions of our parents, grandparents, siblings, caregivers, religious persuasion, culture, even our schooling, our environment, and our friends. And it's at the crucial learning point that we develop and adopt behaviours from those around us. This goes a long way towards influencing our values, beliefs, and behaviours, as well as the person we will ultimately become. By adulthood, our brains are programmed and hardwired, and we become unaware of the values and beliefs we hold. We just accept them automatically and are unable to question them until such a point that we wake up to who we are and we become conscious and really look within to do some inner work. There is even research to suggest that ancestral beliefs are stored in our DNA. And the subconscious mind is bigger than any computer. It's almost infinite in the amount of information it can hold, and it's capable of recording and playing back everything programmed into it. For your client to change their beliefs, their views, or their values, they first need to change their programming, and this is where you, the coach, come in. How our belief system is formed. When we're born, we accept the world around us just as it is. We live in harmony, open to what surrounds us. We do not see or feel any separation between ourselves, our environment, and the people around us. Our brains are in a state of hypnosis, a theta brainwave state, which means that we're absorbing everything that's going on in our environment to us and around us. As we grow, we begin to take on the behavior styles of those around us. Those closest to us have the biggest influence on who we are, and we take on their behaviors and beliefs. Depending on the influences we receive as children, we will grow into adults believing that we're either lovable and worthy of achieving our dreams, or that we're unworthy and incapable of achieving our dreams. Our brains start developing based on our experiences. Neurons within the brain start to make connections and form habits, behavior, and meaning. It's these connections that create memories and form to what we know as an automatic behavior. This is through repetition. The behaviors then become subconscious, meaning they become habitual, and this is how we form our core belief. Our whole lives are dictated by such inner beliefs that we hold to be true. So what are core beliefs? Core beliefs include the thoughts and assumptions we hold about ourselves, others, and the world around us. They are deep-seated beliefs which often go unrecognized, and yet they constantly affect our lives. By the time we reach adulthood, we're said to function on as much or as little as 95 to 99% automatic behavior, meaning the rest is left for conscious, aware action. At some point in our evolution, usually through an experience, we're pulled away from the harmony we experienced as a baby, and we start identifying ourselves within the family dynamic and society's idea of what a human is and how we should be based on what others tell us. We listen to the messages around us and we start to and we start to form beliefs about who we are. For example, we'll hear the messages delivered to us for good behavior, such as that's a good girl or boy, or that's a bad girl or boy. As we grow up, we're further conditioned by those around us, family, friends, teachers, society, and our spiritual self becomes more and more buried. Depending on our family traditions, their beliefs, values, religion, culture, status, and their inherited beliefs, we become more and more conditioned to follow a certain path and believe in certain traditions. When we reach adulthood, we act and respond in the way we've been conditioned to, so that we can achieve approval and acceptance from society. At the same time, we understand what aspects of ourselves are considered good and bad. Driven to seek praise and approval, we try to bend ourselves into being the person society expects, rejecting and hiding the parts of us that are thought to be bad and developing the qualities seen as good. Our sense of identity moves further away from the harmony into which we were born. Now we think, feel, and believe limiting thoughts such as, I'm too thin, I'm too fat, I'm too bright, or I'm too slow. I believe in this, and this is the way it should be. I can't do this, I can do this, I'm rubbish, or I'm talented. It's from here that we form limited, narrow-minded views of ourselves and others and the world at large. We develop an inner voice that tells us we either can do something and is supportive, or we can't do something and is critical. Even worse, this voice can demoralize us, criticize us, and if severe enough, immobilizes from even getting out of bed and functioning properly. It's in my opinion that from this conditioning we lose touch with our spirit self, the side of us that's limitless, creative, loving and non-judgmental. I believe it is fear placed upon us in the form of being rejected, unloved, unworthy, not enough, or not having enough, or not being the best, that detaches us from our almighty, limitless self and causes us to live in a limited, watered down version of ourselves and the potential that we can achieve in life. Our limitless self is simply unconditional love. Unconditional love is the highest frequency we can hold within ourselves, and it's the one place that we're all striving to get back to. It's unfortunate that society and the cleverness of the media have deflected our insight and led us down a path of believing happiness and love will be found in material things. It is those that have trodden this materialistic, hedonistic path long enough that come to eventually realize that what they've longed for is actually within them and always has been. The game of life is to find the treasure that was hidden within you a long time ago, possibly even before you were born. The treasure of your hidden gifts and talents is within you and not outside of you. But it wouldn't be much of a game if the treasures weren't hidden among danger, challenges, obstacles, and adversity, would it? After all, this is where we find our greatest strength and grow and evolve as a person. Your client may or may not be consciously aware of the events which have created their limiting beliefs. However, by taking them through some powerful coaching techniques, they will be guided to their subconscious mind and to the place that requires the healing and transformation. Spending time identifying your client's limiting beliefs, problems, or anxieties, and taking them and turning them into something positive with which they can help and heal their life is the key to successful coaching and healing. When you guide your client through a limiting belief session, you will work with them to establish and identify positive suggestions. These work most effectively when your client is personally involved in the creation, as it provides them with a feeling of ownership. Once the limiting belief or limiting beliefs have been determined, it's then a case of supporting your client in achieving their desired level of success. Work with your client to turn each of those limiting beliefs into a positive suggestion. You can help your client overcome this with a new positive belief or by writing a positive affirmation or mantra that they can say out loud every day until their next session. This can be in the form of a positive action plan, a piece of homework, or a goal the client can set themselves in between the sessions. The point is they install the new belief by taking action on the new positive behavior. So, understanding the mind. Well, let me introduce you to the power of your mind. All human beings have a conscious and unconscious mind, or sometimes known as the subconscious mind. The conscious mind is what allows individuals to set goals, while the unconscious or subconscious is what allows the accomplishment of those goals. There is a lot of information out there about the conscious, unconscious, and subconscious mind. Plus, there might be a lot of confusion too. Are they the same or are they different? And if they are different, what is the difference? So let's break the mind into systems like this. Two of the most influential figures to date in the arena of psychology are Sigmund Freud and his student Carl Jung. In Sigmund Freud's psychoanalytical theory of personality, the conscious mind consists of everything such as mental processing that is formed from our complete awareness. This aspect of our mental processing is the part of us that thinks and talks in a rational way. The conscious mind includes such things as the experiences, memories, recollections, sensations, perceptions, and feelings and fantasies inside our current awareness. Closely allied with the conscious mind is the preconscious mind, which includes the things that we're not thinking of at the moment, but which can be easily drawn into conscious awareness. The things that the conscious mind wants to keep hidden from awareness or experiences, things that happened long ago, are repressed into the unconscious or subconscious mind, where we're unaware of these feelings, thoughts, urges, and emotions. Freud believed that the unconscious mind could still influence our behavior. His student Carl Jung later developed his theory, analytical psychology, and this is where the term archetypes, shadow self, and ego were coined. Jung thought that the main purpose of an individual is to learn individuation, a lifelong process to understand what the self is and what the not self is, based on our conscious and unconscious elements. Individuation can be thought of as a journey to the self. Individuation can be thought of as a journey of the self to meet the higher self. Something you may have heard of called self-actualization by Abraham Maslow. We will discuss Abraham Maslow later during this course. But for now, let's look at the deeper elements into the three-layered mind by Sigmund Freud. Much like an iceberg, we can see the tip of the iceberg above the water, but we know that there is something much deeper going on below the surface. So the conscious mind is akin to the tip of the iceberg. This is your awareness at any given moment. You are conscious and in the present, which means you're aware externally of what's happening, as well as internally in terms of mental functions. So for example, you're aware if you're sitting, standing, jogging, and you're aware of the environment that you're currently in, and that you're breathing and talking. So the subconscious level, the pre-conscious level. This is accessible information, so you can make yourself aware of it by directing your attention to it. You can bring to your conscious mind the pre-conscious information your brain holds. For example, how many times have you walked to the shop without being aware and conscious of the route and your surroundings? It's almost as if you're on autopilot, and you can walk and talk on your phone at the same time all the way home safely without getting lost. So what's the unconscious or deeper subconscious level? Well, this consists of primitive and instinctual thoughts, as well as inaccessible information. Our thoughts and behaviors as adults are unconsciously driven by factors, memories, and experiences which occurred as children who shaped who we are as adults. We acquired countless memories as children, yet it's almost impossible for us to remember even a small percentage of the complete picture of events which led to us developing these memories. So how to make a shift in the subconscious mind? All human beings have a conscious and unconscious mind, as we've discovered. The conscious mind is what allows individuals to set the goals, while the unconscious mind is what allows the accomplishment of those goals. Keeping this in mind, it would be safe to assume that when integration and cooperation occurs between our conscious and unconscious mind, it's possible to function and operate more efficiently. So what are the prime directives of the unconscious or subconscious mind? It's said that the unconscious mind controls 95% of our personal lives. Although the conscious mind still plays a vital role, it only plays a minor role. All human behavior, change, and learning are carried out by the deeper unconscious mind. The unconscious mind does the following. It stores and records memories. It represses unresolved negative emotions to protect you. It brings up any repressed memories for healing. It controls the body and bodily functions. It learns quickly by making associations to form meaning. It impacts human emotion. It needs clear instruction to follow and enjoys serving. It generates, distributes, and stores energy. It does not process negative scenarios directly. It manages human instincts and generates habits. It's programmed to continue to seek more. It uses and responds to symbols. It controls and maintains all perceptions. It takes everything personally. It takes the path of least resistance. It requires repetition to form habit. All work regarding changing behavior is based on how well we understand ourselves and others. When an external event occurs, we internalize it and create a meaning, which in turn creates our emotional state. Therefore, our life is made up of a series of emotional states that we must seek to understand to function healthily. We filter our emotional states through a process of filtering, deleting, distorting, and generalizing based on our experiences and beliefs. Perception is projection. The only way that people can recognize and perceive the things that are around them is by experiencing the events that are related to those things. If one has no experience, then the person cannot label the external representation correctly because they have nothing internally that can help them make sense of the event or occurrence. Once we judge someone or something based on our internal representation, you should understand that you've identified with an experience that lives within you by having undergone a similar experience. The mind-body connection. The mind and body are connected as one system. As such, the way you breathe, walk, or sit is affected by your thoughts and emotions. Try and picture someone that you interact with on a regular basis, or someone that you know well, such as your partner or colleague. How do you know when they're in a foul mood or a good one? Which physical signs, such as facial expressions, posture, and tone of voice, do they use? Try this exercise called the best mood and the worst mood exercise. Think about how you're showing up in the world. Your emotions and your physiological state are totally intertwined. You may not be aware of how others perceive you when you're in a certain emotional state. This exercise will help you become aware of what you're projecting out into the world based on your feeling state. By bringing awareness to yourself in this way, it can help you show you at your best at all times. Awareness is key. So think about, what does the very best version of you show up like? How does your body look? What's your tone of voice? What are your facial expressions? What type of clothes or colours do you wear? How do you greet people? If you were to draw a picture or have a visual representation that represents you in your absolute best mood, what would that visual representation be? And then think about what the worst version of you looks like. What visual representation would depict that? How would your body look? What colour clothes would you wear? How would you interact with people? How can people tell that you're not performing at your best? So think about how you want to show up in the world, and if you're showing up as your best self.